Now that we have the UI nodes in place, we want to make the UI interactive. Although before we can make that work, I have to cover another really important concept. Let me explain the problem. Right now, when the player is shooting a laser or a grenade, we want to reduce the lasers or the grenades by an amount of 1. Which means that we have to have a laser variable available in 2 scenes, in the player and in the UI. And if the game was more complex, we might even want this available in more scenes, like an upgrade menu or a store or literally anything else. That means that we have to make the lasers and the grenades accessible everywhere inside of the game. Which is not something that we can do right now, but we can learn how to do it quite easily. The concept we have to learn about is called autoload. This one literally loads a scene or a script into every single scene in the game. That way, you can store and access information globally. By globally, I mean every single scene, regardless of what scene you are in. For now, we are going to use that for the laser and the grenade amounts and the player health. Later on, we are also going to use it for the player position. But don't worry about this one for now, we're going to cover that later. For now, let's play around with autoload. If you look at the top, there we have project, and there we have project settings. So far, we have looked at general and the input map. Besides that, if you look on the right, we have autoload. And this tab is incredibly important. In there, you can set a path and then a node name. Pretty much what you want to do is use the folder symbol and then click either on the script or on a scene. Both would be possible. And then this script or scene would be loaded into every single scene by default. And for now, I want to create another script, and for that, I want to create another folder. So let me create a new folder, and I'm going to call this one Glow Builds. Inside of this folder, I want to create a new script. So I right click on it, and then new, and then script. Godot is now going to ask me what I want to name this script. And I want to call it Glow Builds. Also for the template, this should be empty by default, and if I now create it, we have another script. I can double click on it to open it, and right now we have an empty script that is extending the node. Now that we have that, I can go back to project, project settings, and autoload, and I want to select this particular node. So all the way at the globals folder, I want to select globals.gd, and now Godot wants to give this a node name. And globals is perfectly fine. If you are happy with both of them, you can click on add, and now we have a globals that is being auto-loaded. So what does that actually mean? And to illustrate that, let me run the game. If I now look at remote, we have globals and we have outside. Inside of outside, we have all the stuff inside of the game, but globals is also there. And if I go to another scene, there we have inside, but we also have globals. And this globals, we never added manually into any scene. It's not inside of level, it's not an outside, it's not an inside. It is only there because we are auto-loading it, which is incredibly useful because now we can simply store any kind of value inside of this script. For example, what we could be adding could be a variable for the laser amount, which by default could be 20. I don't really care about the number here, just choose whatever you like. The important thing is that we can access this laser amount from any other script. For example, we could look at the player, player.gd, and I could extend this window. Inside of the player, we could add another function for _ready. This function will be run automatically once the player has been added to the game. And I want to print player, and then I want to print globals, and inside of there, we have the laser amount. And the same thing I can do inside of level. Once this scene is _ready, I want to print that we have a level. And then I also want to print glow builds and the laser amount. If I now run the game, you can see we have player 20 and level 20, which is a really good illustration that we have globals available everywhere. This would also work inside of the UI or literally any other node. It's available globally. Also for the name here, you could name this script whatever you want, although I think in my case globals makes the most sense. I guess on top of that, I should mention we have named the script in lowercase globals.gd, but inside of project and autoload, we have given this a custom node name, which is globals with the first letter being capitalized. This is how you would access this node. But well, with that, we don't need this information in the level, at least for now. Also, inside of the player, I want to get rid of this ready function because it's not needed. Let me move the inspector a bit to the side so I have a tiny bit more space. The way I want to use this globals information. Right now, we are shooting a laser with this if statement, where we are checking if we are pressing the primary action button and the player can laser. On top of that, I want to add another conditional part. I want to check if globals and the laser amount is greater than 0. With that, we are reading the global variable. On top of that, we can also change it. So the first thing I want to do is to get globals.laser amount once again, and then subtract 1 from it. With that, I should be able to shoot the laser 20 times. And let's try that. So this might take a second. I'm going to speed all of this up. And there we go. I keep on clicking, but there's no laser. And well, this is covering the first part. Now the player has access to the laser amount. Next up, we have to access all of this as well from inside of the UI. And for that, we have to give this one a script. So I'm going to click on Add Script, and I want to save the script inside of the same folder where we have the scene. This looks pretty good, so I can add it, and I don't want to have anything else there. The way I want to approach this is I want to write another function, and let's call it update laser text. This doesn't need any parameters, and really all I want to do. I want to get the label inside of the laser counter, this label here. And I could drag all of this in there, but this would be kind of annoying to read. Also later on, I want to access this multiple times, so this isn't a really efficient way of working. Instead, what I am going to do is to store this label, or this node to be more specific, inside of a separate variable. All that means is I want to create another variable that I'm going to call the laser label. This has to be a label node, and the value is going to be what we're getting from this node. Also, let me extend this window so we can see a bit better what's going on. I hope this kind of setup makes sense. I am simply storing a reference to the node inside of a separate variable. That way, inside of this function, I can get my laser label, and then I can look at the inspector to see what we can work with. So if I look at the label and I hover over text, you get text. So if you want to update this property, you would use the text property and then give it a new value. In this case, I want to target my globals and then the laser amount once again. However, we have two problems inside of this script right now, and Godot is actually complaining. The first one is that the default value is using a $, which won't return nodes in the scene tree before the ready function is called. Which means that only when you're calling the ready function, we are creating all of the nodes. And this one would be run before that, so it wouldn't work. There are two ways to solve this. One approach would be to simply create a ready function and then paste this variable in there. And this would be totally fine, although now we have another problem, that this variable is only existing inside of the ready function as a local variable, so it wouldn't be available inside of the update laser text. So this isn't ideal. I guess you could work around it, but there's an easier way. You could add an add and then on ready. With that, this line of code is only run once the scene is ready. It's effectively the same thing as running this line inside of the ready function, although with the difference that all of this is going to be in the global scope of this class. This would be the first problem. The second problem is when we are updating the text, Godot is expecting a string, but globals.laserAmount right now is a number, and this would cause an error. So we have to convert this number into a string, which you can do very easily by using the str function. And that is pretty much all we need to update this node. The one issue we have now is that we have to call this function at a certain time. Right now, we have a function that could update the laser label, but we don't know when to call it. This I want to do inside of level.gd. And once again, let me extend all of this. When the player is shooting a laser, I want to target the UI, and on there, I want to get the update laser text. So paste it in there and simply run it. With that, I should be good to go. Let's try all of this. And now the numbers are updating. This is looking really good. And once again, let me keep on shooting the laser so we can make sure that this doesn't work once we have 0 lasers. And there we go. This is looking really good. And just to reiterate, what is happening here? The first step is we have a global script, and in there we're only storing a single value, the laser amount. This value we access in 2 places. We have it in the player, and in there we are checking if the number is greater than 0, and if it is, we're reducing it by 1. Besides that, inside of the UI, we have an update laser text, and this one is taking 1 node and then uses the global laser amount to update this text. Finally, inside of level.gd, we are targeting the UI scene and then calling update laser text. I hope all of that is straightforward. This is an incredibly important concept to practice, so let's do that. I want you guys to create a global grenade amount variable and connect it to the player and the UI. It should look really similar compared to the laser. Pause the video now and try to figure this one out. I want to start by working inside of globals.gd. Right now, we have a laser amount. Besides that, I also want to have a grenade amount. For the starting value, I want to set this to 5. Next up, we have to work inside of the player. And in there, like we have done for the laser, I want to check if the input is pressed for the secondary action, if we have a timer for can grenade, and on top of that, I want to check if globals.grenade amount is greater than 0. If that is the case, I want to reduce globals.grenade amount by 1. This should already be the first step. So if I now run the game, we should be able to shoot 5 grenades. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now I shouldn't be able to do it anymore. And I can't. So this is definitely working. Next up, we have to look at the level and if the player is emitting the on-player grenade signal. I want to target my UI once again and then run a function called update grenade text. This function doesn't exist right now. Let me copy it and then work inside of the UI. I want to create a function called update grenade text. Doesn't need any parameters. And all we have to do now is target the label and then update the text. For this one, once again, I want to create a global variable that stores a reference to this node. So with onReady, I have var grenade label, which has to be a label, just to be sure. And this value we can simply drag in there. I get it from the grenade counter. There we have the label. And that I want to drag in there like so. This we can now use with the grenade label.text. And then I want to have a string with globals.grenade amount. And that should cover us. Let's try all of this. And we are getting an error because I didn't get the proper node. I got the grenade counter, the VBox container, but not the label. And since I specified that this has to be a label, we're getting an error. All we have to do to fix that is to add the label. And now it should be working. Let's try again. This is looking better. If I shoot a grenade, we are updating the number. Cool. So this is working quite well. I can also do this over multiple scenes. And there you can see a problem. We are recreating the new numbers. Let me actually play all of this again. Right now, we are in the outside scene. I can shoot a laser a couple of times, also the grenade. And now for the numbers, we have 17 and 3. But if I go to the inside level, we are back to 20 and 5. However, once I shoot a laser, we are going to 16. And if I shoot a grenade, we go to 2. The issue we have here is, if I go back to the UI, we have a default value for both labels, which are 20 and which are 5. Now, I could get rid of them, but this wouldn't exactly help me. So if I remove these numbers, we can't see any number, and if I run the game, by default, we don't have any numbers, and only if I shoot, we are getting numbers. But this also isn't ideal. And once again, once we're entering a new scene, this also isn't working. Basically, what we want to do is, once we are starting a new scene, we want to display the global numbers. Doing that is actually really easy. I want to work inside of the script of the UI, and in there, I want to create the function _ready. Once again, this will be run once the UI scene is ready. Which means once we are entering the inside or the outside level, this function will be executed. And basically all we have to do is get the laser label, then get the text and assign it the string value with globe builds and the laser amount. Now if I run this, we're getting 20 by default, and if I shoot all of this, we are down to 16. If I now go inside, we still have 16. So this is working even across scenes. And you may be noticing now that we are duplicating code. I am running this line and this line here, and they are identical. Which means I can simply call update laser text, and I guess while we're here, also update grenade text once the scene is ready. And with that, we should be having everything in place. So we get the numbers right away, and now the numbers are 17 and 4. If I go inside, we keep the same numbers. So this is working super well. Cool. Let's try it one more time, and yeah, I am really happy with this. But we can make all of this look quite a bit more fancy. I'll cover that in the next bit.